Mayor, Parent, one thing we try to teach, one skill we try to teach at IU South Bend here in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences is active citizenship. We want to see our students become engaged. So if we had a student who's starting from the beginning, not engaged in politics, and we were to design for them a 6-month course of action or an apprenticeship that was going to lead to them being this more engaged citizen, what are some things that you would recommend? Where would we send this person?
I would suggest to this person that they go to a place like Real Services, which is one of the premier older adult organizations in the country, in fact, and serve there as an internship, because that will bring them in all kinds of situations, including probably lobbying or learning about the state legislature, laws, and so forth. Certainly, that's one place to go. I think also there's all kinds of organizations, Habitat for Humanity. If they're interested in the political arena, I'd suggest they try for an internship with a governor's office, a mayor's office, somewhere like that.
I think there's, actually this coming year is going to be a great opportunity because South Bend will be celebrating its 150th anniversary as a city. And there's all sorts of committees working on different projects. And I think there are plenty of different ways that people could plug in to that to get engaged in community, have fun, meet other people in the community that are actively doing things. So southbend150.com on the website will take you there and can learn about some of that. But again, Roger, you hit it. I think there's so many not-for-profits in the community that one could participate in, volunteer at, whether it's, again, Real Services, South Bend Heritage Foundation. You think of the Rotary Club and the Kiwanis clubs, the service clubs that all have different projects going on throughout the year. So I think lots of different opportunities.
Is the idea there, and this could go to either person, is the idea there to get exposure to some of the broader issues in the community? I mean, mentioning Real Services, what about that organization would necessarily stand out? Would you see different policy issues? Would you see the problems facing the community?
Yeah, I think you got to go to an organization that's well run, first of all, and Real Services has that reputation. My daughter was an intern with Real Services, and she was assigned to help some older people. I'll never forget the fact that she took an older person somewhere, and when she was coming out of the place, the guy's pants were falling off and he didn't know it. And there's a very young person, Mister, please hold on to your pants. Quite an experience for her. So I think that's where I would go.
I think that the students have to find something they love. Mm-hmm. Something that they really want to do, that they have an interest in. There's nothing worse than getting an internship and all you're going to do is be standing at the Xerox machine and getting people coffee. I think they have to, and it takes some work, some looking, but the thing to do is to tap into every resource that you have. And it might be your parents, friends of your parents, people that you've met over the course of time, and put that the Rolodex in play, and ask for help and ask for ideas. You have kids now that are doing things that we never thought of doing, going overseas, and there are internship opportunities that are available. But I think they just have to figure out exactly what it is that they want to do, and they can do that together. They can do it as a group. They can do it with the assistance of somebody from outside. But find that niche and then go for it. There may be some bumps along the way, but I don't think you can't quit in midstream if that's really what you want to do.
In terms of government service, the City Council has a number of committees that have citizen representatives on. And you don't even have to be officially appointed as a citizen representative, but even if you're interested in the neighborhood committee or the public safety committee, to go and attend the committee meetings and to hear the public input, or often, sadly, the lack of public input. It's funny, we will have huge items come before the city council and almost no one shows up. It's always the unexpected little things that catch somebody's ire and brings in a large group of people. But so I think lots of opportunities again in that arena as well.
I have an intern right now that I'm supervising. I'm part of an organization in Indianapolis, and this intern is in a master's program. And I want to emphasize here that the value of that intern to the organization. And so sure, I have to provide a little time supervising the person, but nowadays by phone, email, and a couple meetings down in Indianapolis does it for me. But this person has done the work that an organization would have to pay about $15,000 to $20,000 to get it done for an outside group. And it's just invaluable. So I think that universities, colleges, and all, we have to convince many organizations to provide these internships, because these, I mean, we're talking students that are, in this case, 22 or 23, and is doing a marvelous job for us. And yet there are too few of these internships. Joe said it right. It's got to be something you love, but also it's got to be something that's valuable to the organization, so the student feels that they are doing something that's important.
So one thing I've noticed, I mean, Mayor Lickey, something you said was show up to the city council. There are these committees you could serve on, and I think one of the barriers we're trying to break is getting to that point where you even feel comfortable saying, well, I think I'll head down to City Hall and volunteer to be on a city council committee. So do you think that one part of this apprenticeship, is it being exposed to the type of people who aren't afraid to step up like that? I mean, Mayor Parent mentioned earlier the idea that everyone has this assumption of the assumed they who will get involved and know how to do everything. But is one part of this just seeing people like yourselves who are engaged and not afraid to step up in these situations?
I think absolutely. You know, Joe said, in some ways, volunteering is in our DNA, and we get it from our parents, from example, and I think that's right. But oftentimes there can be someone else in the community who inspires you, and you learn to see that, gee, this is my neighbor. He's not the mayor of the city of South Bend. He's just somebody who cares about his community, and he's out helping at Habitat for Humanity. I could do that. Or here's someone who's going to the city council meeting because they're interested in the zoning issue in our neighborhood. Yeah, I could do that. So I think that example certainly is helpful. One other organization in town, the Chamber has a Young Professionals Network, because I know that we don't necessarily think the same way that the younger generation now feels. We certainly don't have all the tools that they do in terms of social media and things, but I think that the YPN might be able to, again, help them see some other ways of entry into public service. Sometimes maybe not as wanting to get engaged with a service organization like Rotary or Kiwanis, but might be willing to show up for an organized event that says we're going to, for 3 hours, we're going to go down and we're going to get this done in the community. So to learn those skills as well, I think could be important.
And I think there's safety in numbers. If you've got, if you're sitting there by yourself and trying to figure out, well, should I go downtown and find the county city building first, and instead of being with a group of people and saying, well, let's go down, you know, so you're not going to be standing out, but you're going to be in a learning environment. If you go to a council meeting or one of their, you know, one of the pre-meetings that Steve talked about, and that I think gives you some comfort. And I know I see it in the kids that I teach, and they're all juniors and seniors, and it's and I have them do at the end of the semester, they have to get dressed up. And they have to make a presentation to a Senate committee in the General Assembly, and it's just terrific. And I mean, they come up with great stuff. The best one this year was voters' rights. How do we get more people to vote? How do we get them to be able to vote when it's really their God-given right to be able to do it. But voter suppression is very real, and they gave it their all. You know, and so I think that again, there's comfort in numbers and kids being able to go out and do it together. Get 10 people together and say, what should we do this weekend, or you know, that kind of a thing that I think just gives them more comfort.
And it sounds like having a connection to a specific issue or having a target, right? I mean, you're mentioning this experience. I mean, there's a specific issue with voter turnout. They've got a goal in mind, and so maybe that's important to keep in mind. Maybe it's about connecting students and non-engaged citizens to issues.
Yeah, rather than talking to themselves, they're talking to their colleagues, the other students that are there, and ideas pop up, and they end up doing good and creative things.
Well, slightly different tack. I think students ought to know something. I meet young people now and then, and it's particularly before now, and they would think I was born as a mayor. You know, like, oh, you're the mayor. And I have to tell them, well, it just didn't happen quite that way. And I think it's important for students and people to remember that, you know, before you got to be a mayor or whatever it is that you want to be, there's a lot of steps along the way, and you start in a small way. So, like Joe was saying, maybe I think in school, universities, and colleges, it's terribly important to teach that kind of civic involvement. Too often at the public school level, people stay away from all the controversial issues. They're all afraid that somebody will complain about it. I think that's very unfortunate. I think the seeds of people not being involved in the political arena or in their community starts in school. Schools are basically places, public schools are places where you're supposed to do what they're told to do. Don't express too much imagination because you might be put down. And I've fought there on the school board, and I'm still fighting it, I guess. But I think that's just the way it is. And people get out of high school and they've not really been very democratically oriented. I don't mean I mean Democrat with a very small d. Because that's not the way schools are run. And it's a tragedy that schools are run authoritarian way, very, very top down, and therefore that's what students learn all the way through. So you have a tough job in colleges and universities to reverse that. They're not used to it.
Yeah, again, you know, I think the key is taking ownership, saying this is my community, what can I do to make it better, and then you find your passion, find a project, and you invite your peers to help you with it.
But it doesn't have to be drudgery. No. It can be fun.
So, and it may not be a literal internship, right? I mean, we're essentially talking about I mean, that's what we're really talking about. It sounds like to me. I mean, exposure, meeting people who are engaged, becoming part of that, you know, engaged network of citizens, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, meeting community members.
Absolutely.
Well, any final comments on that? Just something you would send a young person or just a non-engaged citizen out to do to prepare them to become an active citizen, or are we?
I would just say that I think the experience of the three of us and people who have been engaged is that that we got more out of it than we ever expected we would. The opportunities to be able to do things that benefit individuals, the broader community, is something that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think too often we kill the passion and saying it somewhat the same way. Follow your passion. Don't go out and do something you're not interested in. Follow your passion, whatever that is, and that's what you ought to be doing your whole life.